Right, so as we have a good number in attendance now, could I introduce Ian Mills as Dean of the faculty, and if we could have the summary agenda on screen, I'll hand over to Ian.
Thank you, Simon, and welcome everyone to the annual general meeting of the Faculty of General Dental Practice UK. Clearly, this is a fairly novel approach that we're having to take this year, but hopefully it will be an effective medium to get the information across that we need. And as Simon has already said, we are happy to answer any questions. I think the sensible approach is, as Simon has stated, that we do that under any other business. So it's over a year ago since we held the last AGM, which was in June, and that was in Birmingham, at the end of an excellent study day on erosive tooth wear. But although time has flown, that seems like an absolute lifetime ago. And this was always going to be a busy time for the faculty as we prepared to separate from RCS England. But no one could have been prepared for what we have faced over the last 6 to 9 months. And the impact of COVID has been wide-reaching across all aspects of society, and the RCS England and the Faculty of General Dental Practice UK have not been immune to the consequences. And I'll highlight some of the issues relating to COVID in my report. But at this point, I would simply like to pay tribute to the faculty staff and the members of the National Board, the course leads and tutors, divisional directors, and the various members and fellows across the country who have put in so much effort to support the organisation, and also to our colleagues across the profession during this very difficult time. So thank you so much to you all. It is greatly appreciated. And thank you to those of you who have joined us this evening for the annual general meeting. So if we move to the first item on our agenda, which is the minutes of the 2019 annual general meeting, and that's to receive and confirm as a correct record the minutes of the annual general meeting, which was held, as I say, on the 7th of June 2019. And I think ordinarily what we would do is to go through them page by page for accuracy. But I would suggest that if there are any inaccuracies that have been picked up on any of these pages, that you perhaps highlight them in the chat box to bring them to our attention. So, thank you. I will move on now to item 2, which is report from myself, the Dean of the Faculty of General Dental Practice. And it's certainly been an interesting year, to say the least. And I guess we can look at the past 12 months in 2 parts. I guess BC before COVID and then DC during COVID. And I'm certainly very much looking forward to AC, but I doubt this is necessarily going to be within my term of office, sadly. So the faculty faced a number of challenges, BC, in terms of education, examinations and membership. And there had been increasing focus on the impending separation from RCS England. Progress was being made on the separation front, and the College of Dentistry was beginning to take shape, ready for the transfer of the faculty in June 2021. This is all BC, and the education programmes were progressing well, with a revamped restorative programme, a new team delivering the primary care oral surgery diploma, and our implant programme successfully delivering the programme in Hong Kong and ready to start a third cohort. And this has necessitated a huge amount of work on the part of the staff, course leads, tutors and the management board, and I'm very grateful to them for their hard work in ensuring the high standards in education are being maintained. And our Head of Education, Will Glover, and his team should be congratulated for the impact which they have had on every aspect of our education portfolio. Many of our divisions had been active in preparing candidates for the MJDF and holding study days, and I had the pleasure of attending a number of events in Birmingham, Leeds, Manchester and Glasgow. Again, my thanks to all involved in hosting such a series of successful events. And for the dedication and support which our divisional members provide for the benefit of their colleagues. And sadly, a number of other events were planned for this year that have had to be delayed, but I've no doubt they will be just as successful next year when they're reconvened. But we ended our BC period in some style with our diplomat ceremony and annual dinner, which was a huge success and provided us with the opportunity to celebrate the previous successes. I was delighted to be able to award Professor Mike Mulcahy with the Dean's Medal, which was so richly deserved. Mike has made a massive contribution to the faculty over the many years and continues to provide huge support to the faculty, the staff team, and myself as Dean. And I would like to thank him once again for that contribution. We were also desperately sad to lose a close friend, colleague and member of the National Board, Nick Pandya, at the end of 2019. But the annual dinner provided us with an opportunity to remember Nick by introducing the Nick Pandya Student of the Year Award. This was awarded to Yewande Odewole, who is a very impressive young dentist, who I'm sure we will be hearing a lot about in years to come. And it was especially gratifying that Nick's wife, Nina, was there to present the award. Sadly, Nick was not the only friend of the faculty we have lost over the last 12 months. And as many of you will know, Janet Goodwin, an honorary fellow of the faculty and the DCP representative on our national board, sadly passed away a couple of months ago. She'll be sadly missed by all who knew her, but I'm pleased to say that we have been in touch with the BADN and we will be commemorating Janet's contribution to dentistry by introducing the Janet Goodwin Award for dental care professionals, and more information about this will be available shortly. The annual dinner was the last face-to-face event held by the FGDP before lockdown, and indeed it was the last face-to-face event by RCS England. But I'm incredibly relieved that our decision to go ahead at such a time did not lead to any untoward super spreader activity, and I think we left London relatively unscathed. At the time, we were vaguely aware that there might be some challenging times ahead, but none of us could have foreseen what lay ahead over the coming months. The COVID pandemic has undoubtedly brought the best and occasionally the worst out in everyone, and I'm fortunate to have been surrounded by the best. There has been huge collaboration across many organisations, and I'm pleased that the faculty has led the way in that regard. The faculty team have been outstanding during the pandemic and have played an important role in supporting the profession and cope with this unprecedented challenge. In particular, I would like to thank the Dean's Executive, who have worked tirelessly over the last few months and given a huge amount of their time to attend meetings, respond to requests for support, and help develop guidance. The faculty has led in many ways, and our contribution to COVID guideline development and promoting equality, diversity and inclusion over the last 6 months has been widely acknowledged. The FGDP staff have played an equally important role providing support for our board. Our team may have diminished in number as a consequence of the longer-term financial pressures placed upon us, and then more drastically by the need for RCS England to furlough significant numbers of employees through the pandemic, but they have not diminished in effort. It's remarkable to see that, in many ways, more has been achieved in critical aspects of our work than ever before, for which the evidence can be found in more and richer member communications, more engagement with those shaping and influencing dental policy across the UK, and reshaping our offer in fast-changing times for dental education. This has, however, placed an increased load on the depleted faculty team, who have borne the brunt of the stress and pressure of the last 12 months, working long hours, evenings and weekends, and I can't begin to thank them enough. Last year, I reported on a challenging year of financial constraint at a time when dentistry evidently needed the effective support of the faculty. We were clear at that time that a great deal of work was going to be required as the profession faced up with the rest of the country to the implications of Brexit, and as the faculty prepared for its independent future. We are proud of what had been achieved nonetheless, but we cannot have foreseen the storm that was going to descend upon the profession and upon the faculty itself in 2020. It has been overwhelming. But in the face of great challenge, it is with particular pride that I report today on the achievements of the faculty in the teeth of adversity, and we are humbled by the level of continuing support for our vital work, evidenced by sustained membership and willing voluntary contribution on so many sides. Our members cannot fail to notice the gradual awakening of the College of General Dentistry, our intended new home, where the trustees have been working to prepare the ground and to ensure that a recognisable and respected brand identity is shaped, which can reflect and build upon the authority that our faculty has cultivated over 28 years. The new college has a complete focus on the promotion and enhancement of general dentistry, reflected in the career pathways which have been forged for our profession. Our focus in professional affairs has naturally been defined by the need for an effective response to the pandemic. In early June, together with the new college, we published seminal guidance to prepare them for the return to practice and provided an update in October, together with an online fallow time calculator that has already helped over 4,000 practitioners to manage the current constraints. We are very grateful to Flynotes for partnering with us in the development of this free online tool, and to Wesleyan and Practice Plan for their generous financial support. At the start of the pandemic, we recognised that membership of a professional body might not be seen as an essential consideration in a crisis, but we have been humbled by the continuing support for our work and, dare I say, the sense that we offer some stability, sanity and community in difficult times, as well as an authoritative guide in making the right clinical decisions in such unfamiliar circumstances. Members have adapted, taking up video calls and conferences, and we have seen a remarkable level of interest in our own webinar services, kindly hosted by ProDental. There is more to come, and in some ways we have enjoyed the very different, but in some ways heightened level of engagement on many fronts. These have been strange times too for our education programmes, with a sudden need to migrate our diploma programmes, where practical, to online delivery. We were not well set up for such a change at the start, and it's a tribute to all concerned that we've been able to do so successfully. But challenges remain for our participants, with venues generally inaccessible for hands-on experience and participants unable to gain the tutor-supported experiences in practice that we would expect. Each of our programmes has now accepted its final cohort before the transfer to the College of General Dentistry, and we are working with the Royal College of Surgeons to ensure all legacy and current participants are able to complete their RCS award successfully. This is our final AGM before the intended transfer to the new college. It's been a long journey for the faculty, an important step for us as we work to enhance the standing of general dentistry and to provide the independent voice of authority that the profession needs. We are extremely grateful to our hosts over the past 28 years, the Royal College of Surgeons of England, but it's right that each of us turns to the support of each of our professional groups with fresh vigour and focus. We all face challenging times, and our faculty board is absolutely convinced that the new college is the right home for us. A royal charter of our own is the ultimate prize, and we are confident that the new college will be well placed to make that case in the very near future. That truly will be an historic moment. Much of what we have accomplished would not have been possible without the contribution of our director, Simon Thornton Wood. His mental and physical capacity to deliver is quite remarkable, and he has shown outstanding leadership throughout a very difficult period. And I personally would like to thank Simon for all his support to the board and to his staff team, and in particular to myself. Finally, I would like to highlight our biennial Malcolm Pendlebury lecture on the 12th of November next week, which is being held online this year, and Professor Elizabeth Kay will give the lecture this year, and that will be introduced by the faculty's very first Dean, Stephen Rear. I look forward to joining you all at this important event in the FTDP calendar, and I thank you all once again for your time this evening. You will be relieved that I have no more on my notes to add from my Dean's report, And without further ado, I will pass over to item 3 on the agenda, which is report from our Director, Simon Thornton-Wood.
Good evening again, everybody, and thank you, Ian. I don't intend to reiterate all that you already have available to you in your papers, but I thought it might just be worth my highlighting a few points personally, reflecting back on the year that has passed by. And I'm going to start by saying that from the FGDP National Office point of view, 2019 already seems like a time of change and intense challenge for the faculty, with, as the Dean's reported, financial pressures upon us brought about by the challenges facing the RCS as a whole, further bearing down on our activities, and a need for ever greater sort of creativity in the way that we deliver more with less. And it's been absolutely clear always that more is needed. We've got a lot of ambition and things that we want to do. But also, you know, this has been a time of change within the market generally. You know, before COVID, these were not easy times for the faculty in one of its principal areas of activity, which is its education, the postgraduate training that we provide. These are fast developing and competitive markets. We have always believed that we have an important contribution to make with the highest quality, highest caliber qualifications, but they could not stand still. And in 2019, we'd seen tremendous changes embarked on in any event. The Dean's already reported on a complete new team taking forward the qualification in oral surgery, which has involved a redevelopment of that award. We've seen in implant the successful delivery of the first cohort out in Hong Kong. Been absolutely delighted with what we've been able to achieve there, reviving ambitions from some time ago when we'd run a single cohort a few years ago. You cannot imagine, well, I suspect some of you can imagine, just how much work sits behind that. Really important step forward that we've made. And with the restorative programme, the reconfiguration of that award, responding to those obvious market trends to offer a certificate level qualification prior to the diploma, making what we have to offer more widely accessible. And I'm delighted to say it's attracted the attention that we hoped for. And I think we can say that has been successfully delivered, but all involving a considerable amount of thought, planning, and inevitably change. Membership has held steady. I think as a team, we've seen the need for investment for our membership to truly move forward with confidence and to achieve the growth that we believe there is potential for, both within the United Kingdom and internationally. But given the constraints we've been facing, we're proud of our ability to have held steady with membership. And that's a tribute to the loyalty and the advocacy of many who are with us tonight, and the sense of importance of what FGDP does. That, I think, is going to be a very secure base to build on for the future. And of course, an integral part of that is the work that our divisions do. And again, enormous thanks to the volunteer effort around the country to ensure that FGDP can offer an active programme. I'm not going to let another AGM go by without mentioning the member register, well known as my pet project. We've had thousands of hits on that, so it's having some impact. I'm not quite sure what impact, but it's good to know that people are using that as the authoritative reference as to who has earned those precious post-nominals, and protecting the integrity of our brand as I see it. So you've not had occasion to use the member register, I'd recommend it to you. The report that you have available to you, you'll see is most lengthy in describing the work we're doing in standards, in influence and engagement with other parties. And I'm going to say that that's sort of what we describe as professional affairs and outreach. We're doing more than that, more of that than I have known FGDP to do before. And that results from a number of things that I just want to highlight. Firstly, I believe that despite the levelling off of membership over the last couple of years, we are punching ever more strongly in our influence abroad, and that is a tribute to the contribution of our board members whose time is taken up by such activity, and the coordination that Jamie Woodward, as our Head of Professional Affairs, brings to it. We have more press coverage. We're putting out more press releases. We're putting out more newsletters. There is more going on there than ever before. And it's remarkable that we should be able to achieve that with the limited resources we have. We have also, the keen-eyed amongst you may have noticed, changed publishers for our journal. Slight hiccup you may have noticed, those of you who are impatient for the journal to pop through your letterbox, that the first issue under the new publishing arrangement was a good few weeks later than normal. Things, I believe, though, are stabilised, and you can look forward to the resumption of normal service there. Meanwhile, the advantage of that relationship is, I believe, that the Primary Dental Journal will acquire greater reach, greater impact, and that translates into greater authority in the voice of FGDP, and of course greater reach for those who contribute to the journal itself, which I think is all good news, and I know how encouraged our editor Igor Blum is by that step forward. I can't mention all of that sort of frontline activity without drawing attention to what's happening behind the scenes. Our operations team pull those threads together, and like all the rest of the team, are somewhat diminished in number. But everything from organising these sorts of events through to supporting and engaging with the board is held together by Alex Barber's team exceptionally well, and they're easily hidden in the shadows. I think it's a good opportunity to bring them forward. I will just close these remarks by highlighting that there are some things that FGDP just simply now does not have the resources to deliver. And we're really looking forward to the opportunities that the new college will present for us to reinvest and grow in the development of the services that we aspire to. That's already started. There are things that FGDP has been able to now do alongside the new college, and you'll have seen the reference to the new college's involvement in the recent guidance that was published. But perhaps the most important thing there, around which we're all focused, is the development of the career pathways for the future college, which will underpin the membership structure and will bring real authority to that career progression system that we aim to introduce. So I would commend that to you as a good continuation of those aspirations in FGDP to build a coherent career structure for the profession. Lastly, from me, just to say my thanks to Ian's last AGM that Ian will be, for which Ian will be Dean. And I must say I've hugely appreciated working with him through some incredibly interesting, historic and challenging times. But I will stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Simon. I hope that's given everyone a bit of an insight into some of the work that's been going on and supplemented the papers that were circulated earlier. So we will pick up questions under AOB, although there doesn't seem to be a flurry of them at the present. Not that I want to encourage encourage that necessarily, so that allows us to move on to item 4, which is the financial report to receive within your papers under Annex 4. Simon, did you want to draw attention to anything in particular there? Or?
By all means, just a couple of points to make about this. Firstly, you will have heard us, both the Dean and myself, refer to the financial strictures within which we find ourselves increasingly operating, and you will see that reflected in the summary figures that are published in the papers available to you. I should emphasize that the FGDP's own accounts are not audited separately within the RCS's accounts, and we have yet to have these accounts reviewed by the RCS itself. So these are provisional figures, though in my experience, Alex is very good at making sure that they align. So I commend them to you on that basis, but also with that slight caveat. And I guess we'll be open to any questions that might arise from that when we take questions at the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Sam, at this point, did you want to run the poll?
Yes, I think what we propose to do, you'll appreciate that in the context of the webinar software we're using, it's difficult to have an interactive AGM. But one thing we would like to do is to actively seek your agreement to the report that we've provided to you this evening. That's a formality that I think you would expect in an AGM. Ian, I guess it's a question as to whether we want to field a couple of questions first before we do that. So I suggest we do that just in case there are any points of detail that people specifically want to pick up on. Okay. So I'm conscious that, I don't know if you can see the questions, but I can see, just a comment, thank you from Trevor Big, thanking us for all that we've done and we're doing. Thank you, Trevor, your appreciation is much appreciated by us. I think there's a sense that we do our work with a sense that we're doing this in the interest of the profession. Any chance we get for feedback, we'll be seeking it, but that's much appreciated. I'll just pause a moment, Ian, shall I, just to see if there are any other questions coming through.
Simon, sort of this live event, I didn't see that question or that chat. It's not
it might be that I
sent to you.
I think I have a master control in over this, so
okay, that's fine.
You are reliant on me.
Well, as ever.
We'll just wait a couple of minutes just to see if anyone, because I know what it's like trying to navigate your way around unfamiliar webinar software to find the bit where you enter your questions. So we'll give you a moment to do that. Yes, I've just had confirmation that only I can see those questions. Thank you.
I'll maybe take this opportunity to apologise for my demeanour this evening, or my dress code. Some of you may be aware that Judy was furloughed earlier in the start of the pandemic. So I've been left to my own devices to a certain extent in terms of my diary. So I didn't manage to book time off from my clinic, so I basically come from clinic straight into this. So my apologies that I don't even have a shirt and tie, never mind a gown in place. But it's not just for effect, to try and show the people who think I don't do any clinical work that that I do occasionally sit in a dental surgery. And on that, seeing as I'm being so informal, I do have a cup of coffee beside me that I didn't take a swig out of in case I was criticised by the CQC for having hot drinks in my surgery. But there we go.
So, Ian, while you're drinking that, could I just feedback some of the, they're not questions actually so much, but comments that have been contributed. Robbie Thompson and Onka Denoya expressing their thanks to us all, so thank you for those. Trevor Big apologising for the spelling, but thankfully only I can see that, so you don't need to worry about that. And a note from Fiona Elwood commenting she's delighted to see Janet Goodwin being remembered. So thank you for that. Mike Mackay has raised a question about the reserves in the financial resort within the reserves within the accounts, which, as you will see, have not been resolved. And the reason for that is, as I remarked earlier, that's dependent on the RCS to supply the relevant information on matters such as cross-charging. There have been some adjustments made by the RCS over the last couple of years to the way those overheads are calculated. So whereas in the past, Alex would have been able to predict reasonably comfortably what they were and provide you with some provisional figures, it's more difficult for us to do that at this time. So we have not had that confirmed by the RCS recently. That explains the figures you see there. So I have a question from Paul Batchelor, who asks about proposals for office space going forward. Shall I pick that up, Ian, just briefly?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Certainly. So Paul, I think that the position on that is, firstly, we have recognised that COVID has forced us to learn very fast how to be very effective working remotely. And I think that we've much to learn from that in our thinking on office accommodation. Nevertheless, I think everybody recognises that a future college needs an anchor point. And so we are looking now at premises in London. They won't be grand or extensive, but they will provide an authoritative home and address for us, which we believe to be very important and very important both for team coherence and for the effective operation of the board, and of course to provide a venue for the new college to welcome its members and guests. As FGDP, we will not be returning to the Royal College of Surgeons. That much is clear. The Royal College of Surgeons itself will not be returning to its own premises before next July. And when they do, they'll be returning to the new premises which will be complete by that date. FGDP is able to operate very effectively remotely for now. We're able to deliver all that you would expect us to deliver. We are limited in our access to our archives and materials to support our education programs, but we found ways temporarily around that. But make no mistake, we will have, as a new college, new premises sorted out by the time we transfer.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, again, I think I would just reinforce what Simon has said, but I think the pandemic has accelerated the shift across to remote engagement and using online platforms. And I think it's proved that we can use them very effectively in many circumstances. But I think you perhaps lose a depth to the engagement and the communication. And I'd be reluctant to see us replace face-to-face engagement completely. So I think it is important that we do have a central office or office space somewhere. And at the present time, London would seem to be the appropriate place to do so. But yeah, but thank you, Paul, for asking.
Just on that thread, before I return to another question, we're asked, are venues outside London being considered? That's from Mark Bowen. And you may have a thought on this, Ian. I think my answer to that would be yes, we have been actively considering all options, and it may be that a less financial demand on office premises in London allows us to develop functions in other centres around the country. I think thus far in the discussions, and we haven't concluded this yet, but we keep coming back to the point about the immediate accessibility of London for a lot of the country. There's no right answer or best answer, of course, but at the moment it looks likely that London would be a preferred site for a modest presence, but that does not preclude certain functions being delivered more effectively elsewhere in the country. Richard Hayward asks about the future in relation to the reserves, however those may be calculated, in the transfer to the new college. Ian, you may again wish to pick that up, but I'll just preface anything you might add by saying we're still in the final negotiations with the college. My sense of this is that, however that the financial question is resolved, I think it's in the interest of both parties to ensure that the new college is adequately resourced, and we need to recognise that there is a cost in transfer which is likely to be borne within a fund that is currently identifiable with FGDP. But we are very conscious of our responsibility to account for the funds of which we are, in some senses, custodian. Ian, did you want to add anything to that?
I don't think I can add much to what you've said, and certainly couldn't add to that in terms of articulating the present situation. The key point is that discussions are ongoing and they are rapidly progressing. We have a meeting, I believe, this Thursday morning at 8 o'clock with the sponsor group ahead of the RCS trustee board meeting on the 19th of November. And I think there's a further meeting in the interim as well, I think the following Monday again at 8 o'clock. So certainly representatives from FGDP, from CG Dent and from RCS are working very hard to try and ensure that there isn't a stumbling block in terms of the financing of the new college, which has been clearly a barrier over the last few years. But we are all committed to try and make sure we can resolve this issue, and we understand how important it is for so many of our current members, our past boards and past deans, that we do not neglect that responsibility.
So Ian, nothing else coming through immediately. I thought we might pause just a minute longer in case anybody's still navigating around finding that question box or writing a great essay for us. I wouldn't want somebody to be cut short if they devoted that energy. I saw a question from Trevor Bigg. Is London more accessible? Surely we should be following government moves to consider relocating further north. Do you know, as the words came out of my mouth, I had a sense that somebody might put that challenge in front of us. I just reiterate, no final decision is made. There's pluses and minuses in all the options one might consider. And I know that the trustees are very conscious of that. But I'd only repeat the point I made earlier. I think the days of investing in great edifices in the centre of London, I think, are probably over. So he says, speaking as a senior member of the Royal College of Surgeons staff, having just invested £90 million in the office. But I think we've learned a lot at an opportune moment as FGDP about how we might operate for the future and how we might reach across the nation. And this is not an idle point I make when I say that I think we can look at diversifying our functions across the country and maybe having a footprint in a number of places rather than having the invidious choice to make of plumping for one.
I would agree, Simon. I think there's been a lot of talk over the last few months about the importance of flexibility and flexibility of working. And you know, I think again we may have stumbled upon this model. It's by serendipity rather than by design. But that there are opportunities, I'm sure, going forward for rental of office space for short periods of time or for meetings that we perhaps didn't have access to before. And that allows us to be more inclusive as an organisation and make sure that we can host meetings around the country. Because travel in the past has been a real issue for some. We want to be a more inclusive organisation, and for those of us maybe with less responsibilities than others, we can afford to take a day out or go up to London for a day. But others, particularly young mothers or younger associates, might find that more difficult. So we can look at different flexible ways of working and hopefully be more inclusive as an organisation. And a couple of years ago, I remember sending some information to Simon about the affordability of properties in the southwest. And this wasn't a serious comment, but sending him some details of properties that came with a very large number of rooms and acreage and all sorts of things in North Devon that was very affordable. I'd perhaps point out at the present time that the prices in North Devon seem to be going north, while those in London are perhaps heading in the opposite direction. But I think we should look at being more flexible and perhaps looking at office space elsewhere at some time in the future. The focus at the present time is clearly on separation and building the college to be a financially viable, independent organisation. And perhaps office space is taking a secondary priority.
Thank you. More thanks, particularly from Helen Caney and Elizabeth Tyler. So thank you for that. Helen Caney asks a very pertinent question about whether we need to take staff needs and location into account. And of course, the answer is yes. But of course, perhaps a little less critically dependent on where existing staff are located. If we have that, if there is more emphasis on home working, it's more possible for people to consider travelling that little bit further for an occasional meeting or activity rather than the daily grind into central London. So it is highly relevant, and I know my colleagues would wish to be reassured on that point, but I think it gives us, nevertheless, some degree of flexibility. There is a question about...
I think that is important in terms of the staff and the impact that some of the travelling staff have to do in and out of London. In terms of their health and well-being, the cost of travel, the time that they have to commit, how effective it is in terms of their working day. And I'm very fortunate being based in rural North Devon that I have quite a short commute in and out to work. I appreciate that that's not the case for many of those who are working in London. And then there's the other aspect, which is the environmental impact, which I know has been pushed very much to the bottom of the agenda. But I'm sure Paul will be cognizant of the impact on the environment that if we do start working more at home or in more remote locations. So I think there are a number of advantages of moving away from what we have been used to in the past.
I think perhaps final question that's come up, Ian, is in relation to divisions and concern particularly in relation to money held by or on behalf of divisions. I think my immediate answer to that is, like so many other things, the discussions with the Royal College of Surgeons are not concluded, but everybody should be absolutely assured of our concern that money held by or for the divisions is entrusted for the purposes of furthering the work of those divisions, and we will be working to ensure that that purpose is respected in the transition to the new college. Anything you want to add on to that?
Just that was picked up both at a recent Dean's Exec meeting and at the most recent in-camera session of the National Board, which was last Friday. And our chair of the membership committee, Tricia Thompson, is going to be taking that forward. The view is that it would be helpful if we set up a small working group with headed by Tricia and with representatives from various active divisions to see as to how we can ensure that the divisions play a key role moving forwards under the college, and also safeguard the financial position for all these divisions that have worked so hard to not just build their reputation, but also to build the financial position that they find themselves in. So that is absolutely on our agenda at the present time.
Good, thank you. Well, I hope people have felt they've had a bit of time to craft any questions that arise, but no more have appeared on the list, Ian. So what I propose to do, if you're okay to conclude, is to invite the participants. And I have to say, could I just take a moment to say, over the years, we have struggled to achieve a quorum for the FGDP AGM. And I know how difficult it is. We've tried to run attractive events to run alongside them. And yet here we are running an AGM in isolation online, and we've blown it out of the park. We've got a fantastic level of attendance, so enormously grateful to you for taking the time this evening. But we will proceed, if we may, to a poll. One of the little tools we've got here. Normally in an AGM, we would invite those present to endorse the reports they've received. So we wanted to give you that opportunity. So there will now appear on your screen a poll, and we invite you to support the adoption of the reports presented as a matter of concluding formality for the meeting. Just give you a moment to do that. Thank you. And I can report, because although the votes are still coming in, I can report that we have overwhelming support. So I think that as a motion is carried. Thank you very much. And Ian, hand back to you for concluding the meeting.
Thank you. Simon, is you remove the poll, or
I haven't got that much power.
Well, sorry, Diana in the background. Thank you. Well, it just leaves me to close the meeting, to thank you all for giving up your time on a Tuesday evening, and for submitting your questions. I hope we have been able to answer them to your satisfaction. This is an incredibly challenging time for the whole dental profession and the faculty as well. But I think there's a lot to be positive about within dentistry. But we are likely to be able to face these challenges and overcome them the closer we work together and we collaborate across organisations, and certainly within our own organisation. And that has been one of the key points for me, certainly over the last 6 to 8 months, is how people have pulled together with a common and shared objective, which is to deliver the highest standards of care for our patients. And that is what the Faculty of General Dental Practice stands for and always has stood for. And I think as we transition across to a new college, it's so important that we remember where we've come from and that the values that were set down by our predecessors who set up the Faculty of General Dental Practitioners back 28 years ago, that we hold them true. You know, we have got a responsibility to those that have gone before, and I take that responsibility very seriously. And I know there has been some concern and some unease about what is happening to the faculty as we move across to the new college. But certainly I'm confident with the team that are within the faculty at the present time, the trustees within the new College of General Dentistry, and the faculty board take these responsibilities seriously. And I would ask you all, if you have concerns, please contact myself or Simon. We are always willing to engage. We are always keen to have your feedback and have your support and help us drive the future of the new college, because that future of the new college has only been possible because of the past of the FGDP. And again, I would just like to thank everyone for making their contribution to making this possible. We have got a really challenging next few months ahead with the separation, but I have no doubt with the people that are taking this forward, it is possible, and this is very possibly a historic moment for dentistry within the UK. And those of you will be aware that I will demit in June 2021, and then my successor will not only be the Dean of the Faculty of General Dental Practice UK for a matter of days, but they will subsequently be the President of the new College of General Dentistry. And I will be doing everything I can over that period as Dean, helping the Dean-elect prepare for that momentous time. So thank you once again, everyone, for joining us this evening. I bid you a good rest of your evening. I look forward to seeing some of you, or perhaps all of you, at the Malcolm Pendlebury lecture on the 12th of November, which very much sits comfortably in my comments about learning from the past and preparing for the future as we go forward as a new college. So thank you very much and good night.
Good night.